Hello, my name is Julia Streets and welcome to the podcast series StreetsTalksTo. In each episode, I'll be interviewing CEOs from some of the most influential firms, bodies and initiatives in the financial services industry. And as every CEO will testify, one of the critical factors of success lies in the strength of the team. So on each episode, we invite the CEO to bring along a colleague, and together we'll be looking at what's at the very forefront of innovation and change. We'll be thinking about the challenges facing their clients and the industry at large, and uncovering the opportunities that exist both today and as we look ahead, particularly as we all navigate these extraordinary times. I hope you enjoy the series, which you can find on all good podcast channels, and all the episodes are listed on our website, streetsconsulting.com. Thank you for listening. So welcome to Streets Talks to BTON Financial. Now, BTON Financial is an independent outsourced dealing desk to asset managers. So by outsourcing their dealing desk to BTON, asset managers can take advantage of new liquidity opportunities whilst also ensuring compliance with MiFID II best execution, trade and transaction reporting requirements. So in other words, BTON Financial helps buy-side firms implement trading strategies effectively and ensure that investment intentions are never undermined by poor execution quality as a result of inadequate legacy technology. And everything that BTON Financial does is delivered over a SaaS model. So I'm delighted today because I'm joined by Dan Shepard, who's the CEO. Now, he founded BTON Financial back in 2017, realizing that he could help asset managers take advantage of the opportunities arising from MiFID II. Prior to BTON, Dan was head of sales and marketing for the LSE's TradeEcho MiFID II solution. And throughout his career, he's worked at leading prime brokerage firms in Europe and also in Asia, including Societe Generale, Marex Spectrum, ING Barings, and MF Global, and has helped build and sell low latency trading fintech infrastructure at a company called AlgoSpan. Dan, wonderful to have you with us today. How are you? You well?
Hello, great to talk to you today and see you. Yes, I'm
Brilliant.
very well. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. And I'm delighted today you've brought along Caroline Holmes, your COO. So let me tell the listeners a little bit about Caroline. As a MiFID II and Brexit regulatory expert, Caroline has a wealth of expertise in market structure change and its impact on organisational requirements. She joined BTON Financial after more than 2 decades working as a regulatory and transformation expert, predominantly across the investment and asset management community. Previously, she's held Programme Director roles for the Bank of Montreal and Asset Management, and MiFID II Programme Director for Principal Global Investors. And even before that, she was Head of Regulatory Change for Columbia Threadneedle Investments and Change Management Consultant to PwC. And she started her career in investment management at Jones Lang LaSalle. Caroline, thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you on the show.
Hi, Julia. It's great to be here. Thanks.
Fabulous. So I've been really looking forward to this conversation. Where we start the show always is less talking about what you're doing, but really, really interested in your thoughts of what's going on in the industry at large, and particularly sort of what's keeping your clients awake at night at the moment. So Dan, let me come to you first of all. When you're talking to clients, what are they thinking about right now?
Well, there's one main topic, obviously, that we don't need to really give too much detail on because everyone knows what it is. And that is obviously business continuity and working from home, as well as making, of course, some firm plans for 2021. I think a lot of people have been in a holding pattern for 2020, obviously, with working from home for the past 5 months. I'll lose track, 5 months. It's highlighted a number of things, but working from home has obviously been the main one, but it's been a holding pattern. And I think over the coming month of September, I think you'll find a lot of people putting in strategy and making plans for 2021, going sort of to this phrase I often use, which is failing to plan is planning to fail. So I think that's the main concern right now.
And of course, as we speak, this is recorded during the summer months, going live in September, and budget season always happens in October. And I think as we reflect on the last sort of 4 or 5 months, as you were saying, is to think about market volatility and how have clients sort of found that in the whole, and when they're talking to you about looking at the next quarter, what are they particularly thinking about in terms of regulatory change or thinking about in terms of performance?
Well, asset managers definitely had less budget to invest in technologies that to get that competitive edge over their peers. There's obviously been immense volatility over the past few months, so returns are high on the agenda. But I think essentially what they kind of need is access to innovative, sophisticated technology that doesn't undermine their trading strategies and can cope with the volumes that peak in times of volatility. And the reality is that often they're stuck with some legacy infrastructures and business models. So I think this is something that we can help with. Couple that with the general trend towards pressures on profit margins, the whole passive active debate that's been going on over the past couple of years. The asset management industry really has to sort of radically rethink how they run their dealing desks. That's where we come in.
And it's fascinating, isn't it? Because you think about the operational reality of actually running a business, like an investment management or asset management firm today, and looking at the world at large, which never stops. And Caroline, as I mentioned in the introduction, you're the MiFID II regulatory expert. And I mean, what are you particularly talking to clients about at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting, Julia. We got through MiFID II, then Brexit hit us, but the regulatory pressure hasn't eased. Now, I think what's on a lot of people's minds is the senior manager regime, which really does bring in personal accountability within firms, for doing things the right way. And I mean, just to pick up on Dan's point on remote working, at the time COVID hit, I was actually sitting there on the floor in an asset manager, and the mobilization just to get the traders working from home over what was, really a very short period of time was really impressive and very encouraging. And I don't think anyone ever envisaged that traders could work from home, but it happened, and here we are now. But the question is, how long can that go on for? I think the industry needs to evolve and think about how things can be done differently and how they can leverage technology and focus on what really, really matters. The last few months have been about making sure that people can continue to fulfill their roles and meet customer needs from home doing their daily jobs, but we need to move forwards. And there are other challenges looming on the horizon, which I'm sure we'll come on to.
Well, let's get straight into that right now, actually, because one of the questions I'm asking everybody at the moment is, what are we at risk of forgetting? And in the regulatory world, of course, there is so much. Is there anything you're concerned that people may be overlooking or they've put on the back burner?
Oh, I think it's quite interesting. Brexit's happening, but it's gone very quiet. But we are motoring towards the end of year. And one thing I think, which we might be forgetting, everybody knows it's happening, people have probably put in place their strategies, is we might see a divergence of UK regulation from the EU. We might see potential reviews of MiFID II and AIFMD, which, the UK won't have a significant input into. We definitely are seeing an increased focus from the regulators on operational resilience. I mean, that's been bubbling for a while. IOSCO, ESMA papers published, the FCA consultation paper, the Basel review at the moment. So I think we just mustn't forget the need to be able to prevent, adapt, respond, and learn from disruptions to business. So, making sure operations are resilient, that continuity is in place.
And are people actively talking to you at the moment about thinking, I mean, how many months away are we? 3, 4 before the deadline comes, and having some focus and support. Are people talking to you about how you can help them?
Yeah, we're taking a lot of calls, and the outsourced trading is definitely a hot topic in the market at the moment. I think it's tough when people have been locked down at home, and we're really looking forward to face-to-face meetings as soon as we can. We're doing a lot of Zoom, which is interesting in itself. But yes, I think it's definitely on clients' minds about how they can increase their resilience and have that sort of certainty of trading flow.
And as you say, outsourced trading is becoming, if not already, a hot topic. Now, it's a topic that's been around for a while. I mean, I've certainly been around the industry 20, 30 years, and in the last kind of 10, I can think about different offerings as well. But it feels to me that now seems to be the time for a proposition like BTON Financial. But let me just hear from you, Dan. I'm really keen to get your thoughts on why now. What are the really compelling reasons why people need to take outsourced trading really seriously?
Well, surely definitely was a hot topic at the start of the year, and it's blazing hot at the moment. I think the working from home has highlighted the need for operational resilience, for business continuity plan, and of course, automation and servers, we don't necessarily need to worry about them having to take a time off. They're there, they're in the data center or in the cloud in an instance. So it's definitely a hot topic. There's obviously lots of pressures, as mentioned, on profit margins and optimization of teams and operations. So I think that the automation factor and outsourcing is just a very large topic for asset managers coming into the end of the year.
So let's get into that a little bit deeper. So when we talk about the technology and the offering around technology, I mean, so part of it's around having the capability to be able to hand off your trading desk. But the other part of it's about having the technology and the operational setup that would reduce your operating costs, particularly at times we were saying, margins being squeezed, performance is really tight. When you look at the technology offering, how do you describe that? What is the heart of the offering?
The technology is actually really exciting, I have to say, even if it's me saying it. Our core product is the Smart Broker Router. Everyone knows what a smart order router is. That's what the brokers use to ascertain the best trading venue or exchange for their stocks and shares trading. The smart broker router ascertains the best execution algo at the most appropriate broker for our end client, therefore producing the best execution policy for our clients. We help them use the data within our system. We push that through machine learning, and then that continuously improves over time and gets the best possible result for our end clients. And that's what we're here for.
And of course, in the context of MiFID II, the best execution requirements are, front and center of all conversations around performance and actually justifying the performance in the regulatory reporting as well. And I'm really interested in that there are different outsourcing models that you offer, because some clients, at the arguably enlightened end may just go, right, let's just change all of our offering. Let's entirely 100% outsource. We do not need to have a dealing desk. There will be others who are slightly less keen to do that, let's say. Talk to us about how the different models work as well.
Okay, yeah, so we basically have three models. We have one, the full outsourcing of your dealing desk. We manage everything. We manage obviously the broker connectivity, the connectivity into the client. We manage all of the trading and push that all through our trade cost analysis. We talk to the best execution committee at the asset managers, and we maintain that for them. The second one is a more of a hybrid approach, whereby we may interact with the head of dealing, and they will outsource some of their trades to us and maintain control of some of the large in scale or esoteric instruments that they can still really add a great deal of value to as a head of dealing with lots of voice experience and connections into the market. And then the third one is more for emerging managers, which is a bit like a dealing desk in a box, I suppose. And we help them in their process of starting up and getting to market and finding the most efficient way to connect into all the different brokers and trading venues.
And I think this is going to be really fascinating because there will be some firms who want to launch. Some of the best businesses are launched at a time of a crisis. And there'll be others who are looking for investment opportunities and wanting to get into new emerging markets as well. So what you're suggesting is that it's a really quick way of getting set up, but also getting access to new ideas, which I think is ripe for being a good, compelling reason about why now.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to jump in again on that, is actually a lot of firms may only be based in the UK, so they may want to just outsource their Asian equities to us or their US trades to us. So that's another sort of hybrid blend, if you will, so that we can do some heavy lifting in Asia, where I obviously lived for 8 years. So it's obviously a strong area for me.
Fabulous. And Caroline, we were saying earlier about, you're always thinking about regulation, and I explicitly sort of picked up on best execution as a concept as well and regulatory reporting. When you're talking to clients and then when you're out sort of talking about BTON Financial's outsourced offerings as well, are there any particular elements of regulation that people need to keep front of mind?
Well, I mean, best execution is the heart of the business, and achieving the best performance for your customer. But I think, what a lot of this regulation has done is made available a lot more data in the market, but it's not really useful unless you can analyze it. And effectively, we've built a bit of technology. We've got a clever algo, and we are analyzing the data and anonymizing that data so that asset managers can actually have comparisons to sort of a peer group on an anonymized basis, obviously. I think the other thing is, having run many regulatory projects, they are tense, they are hard, the ground moves from underneath you. But actually, this solution is really simple to implement. It's just a SaaS solution. And so, there's no heavy lift. It's clever, but it's really operationally simple.
And I think, for all the panels that I've hosted and all of the trading conferences that I've been at, either digitally or physically, of course, data is the number one question. Everybody's saying, we talk about best execution, we talk about regulatory reporting, but also be able to unlock the insights we didn't have before. And of course, data is really at the heart of all of that. What I'd love to do now is kind of move on to, we've talked about what clients have been thinking about during COVID. And we're thinking about what clients have been navigating as they all of a sudden end up working from home and what that's meant for them. I'd love to explore, how that's been, how lockdown has been for BTON Financial, and both as an organisation and sort of you personally as well. Caroline, can I come to you first of all? How has your lockdown experience been? But I noticed that we're recording this during lockdown. However, you're in the office, both of you as well. So love to hear your thoughts on how lockdown has been.
Oh, Julia, it was very interesting for me. So I joined BTON 2 days before lockdown, and then immediately catapulted into, working from home. And personally, that meant 5 of us in a home, some teenagers, another working parent. That was all very interesting, but good fun. And yes, we have come back in. I now cycle into central London, which I actually really enjoy. So we're a sort of hardcore cycling team here. And I think work-wise, we just do a lot more Zoom calls. I'm not sure I knew what it was before lockdown, but I certainly do now, and many other sort of media like that. But, I do look forward to the day when we can see people again. We've seen one or two. It's getting a bit busier. There's certainly more traffic on the roads. But yeah, all in all, I think it's been an interesting time, or it still is.
And we were saying earlier about, different models of outsourcing. Of course, there are different models of working, and it's almost like a hybrid way, which is either, those who are in the city and can have those meetings, you're amenable to face-to-face meetings, and then be able to use Zoom if people still are working from home as well. Dan, how about you? I mean, it's funny, Caroline talks about being an avid cyclist. I know you are too.
Yeah.
Tell us about how lockdown's been for you.
Well, again, very exciting. We've rediscovered cycling. I did cycle commute for a long time in the past, so I'm doing that every day now, which is good fun. Lockdown for me is, well, it's been very interesting because I actually had COVID-19 right at the start, so obviously was locked away for some time during that, which was character building, I suppose we can say. But subsequently, I just came into the office. I've tried to work from home, and some people are good at it. Caroline, for example, and me, not so much. Although there's obviously been the old Zoom call with a small child's head coming into the bottom left-hand corner, which actually there's a lot more leeway for these days, actually, which is good. And the square au pair has come into play a little bit as well with the TV and Zoom call at the same time. But it's been generally actually quite good, and I think we may be one of the firm. I mean, good in a certain way. We've been hiring. We've hired a few people over the period, which is, I think, everyone likes to hear. Caroline started 2 days before lockdown. We've just got another person that's come on board. So it's kind of a growth phase. And I think, again, the lockdown has kind of highlighted the needs for a automated solution for a lot of firms. So it's really kind of brought us to the forefront of the outsourced trading solutions and the asset management discussions as a whole, really. But yeah, it's been interesting.
And you say you're in a growth phase. I mean, has there been a lot of interest? Have you been doing business during lockdown?
Quite amazing, actually. It's been really good. The amount of interest in outsourced dealing as a whole is obviously much higher. I think we, as a technology solution in the outsourced space, seem to have hit the front of the queue, if you will. So we are fielding an immense amount of calls. We've got constant Zooms. The Zoom fatigue is almost kicking in, where you're constantly staring at the screen and talking to people. But it's been fun. It's good. I mean, I couldn't ask for more, actually, I have to say.
Again, another question I'm asking everybody. It's an odd one, but go with it. Which is favourite piece of regulation? It's a bit of an odd segue, but it is actually, it's very important. We were talking earlier about, your world, Caroline, which is all around, what are we at risk of missing, and then also thinking about regulation. What's your particularly favourite piece of regulation at the moment?
Oh, there is only one. It has to be, and I might be the only person who loves it. But MiFID II, it was just so huge, so broad, so challenging. I did it a couple of times. I finished it. In fact, was ready early and then they delayed it. But there you go. So we had a couple of rounds of that. And then I thought, what could be more exciting than MiFID II? Well, it was Brexit, and it really was very exciting. So it did that. And of course, there was, were more delays on Brexit. But right now I'm working on the GDPR and just making sure that BTON is on the case, fully compliant, and actually future-proofing for the end of year. Who knows what's going to happen on December 31st? Will we get that adequacy decision or not? It's right to the wire, but that's regulation for you.
And I suppose that the key thing now is to be really planning every scenario and just thinking about, what are the various different outcomes and how will they present themselves. Dan, same question to you, if I may, which is, favourite piece of regulation you're paying attention to right now?
Again, I think I have to agree with Caroline in that it's going to be MiFID II, because that is really about transparency and ultimately doing the right thing for the clients. And that's a similar ethos to BTON Financial as a whole: transparency, getting the best possible price for the clients, best possible execution. So that's kind of what we built the company on. It's on completely, really, is transparency and good behaviour and transparency. Yeah. And I'd also like to say the senior manager regime, SM and CR, because ultimately it makes people personally accountable. So whilst regulations can be, okay, that sounds like a really great thing, when someone has to actually sign a piece of paper, say, yes, I am personally responsible, I think it really focuses the mind and it all gets very serious at that point. So that's an interesting thing that's coming this year as well, the SM and CR.
It is the really big buzzwords, aren't they? Which is, thinking about the transparency, but also the accountability. It sits very much on individual shoulders, and really stepping up and finding more efficient ways of running organisations, but also being absolutely 100% accountable for the decisions get made and the performance that's returned or not, which is really fascinating. So if anybody who's interested in finding out about BTON Financial, the website is, as you would expect, www.betonfinancial.com, and that's BTON Financial.com. And also available on Twitter at BTON Financial is the handle as well. So do look them up. And what I'd like to do now is just go into some closing thoughts, really, as we sit here. We've talked about Brexit coming down the track. We've talked about, best execution, and MiFID II is not going away. It may come in different forms as well. But I really love your thoughts on the road ahead and what you're thinking about, and also what advice you give your clients as well as they are planning ahead as well. Caroline, let me come to you first of all from a regulatory point of view.
Well, I think the industry was just forced almost instantly to do things differently. And we need to build on that and evolve into modern organizations. One thing on my mind is I think we need to think more like, is it Gen Z? Like the teenagers think. They're amazing. So, yeah, that would be my take on it. And, often regulation is running far ahead of the sort of legal system, but we just need to get adept and leverage technology and get with it, I think.
And everyone's talking about, wanting to have it digitally enabled. Everybody's talking about the data and the platforms and the lightness of cloud and SaaS models, etc. And it feels like a really interesting time to reimagine in many ways as well. Dan, how about you? What are you particularly thinking about, and what advice are you giving clients?
Well, yeah, that segues nicely into what I was just thinking, actually, which is collaboration amongst asset managers. How do they collaborate with each other to become a mutual beneficial solution? Obviously, that's where BTON Financial comes in with our data and smart broker router. And my key thing this recent times has been failing to plan is planning to fail. I think people need to put some things into action, and some trigger pulling needs to be taking place in order to evaluate your business continuity plan, evaluate your brokers and their performance, evaluating your technology stack and whether it would be more mindful to outsource that to get the best possible solutions. And of course, evaluate your workflow and automate as much as possible so that you're ready for the next time, if let's hope not, if ever happens again. Therefore, that would free up, from an asset manager perspective, freeing up your time for the core business, which is alpha generating activities, really. So let's not have your intentions undermined by any poor technology or legacy stacks or outdated business models. Really, I think that's where I'll leave it.
I think it is a really fascinating time. I used the word earlier about reimagining, and something you touched on there, Dan, in terms of the collaboration within an industry and the ability of now to be able to take data from like-minded institutions and to be able to bring that data together and create almost new data sets as well, to be able to extract even more value from them, being part of the BTON Financial client community, which is really, really interesting to think about as we, exactly as you were saying, Caroline, think more like Gen Zs, thinking more about the teenagers do in creating new opportunities and new products as well. It's been a fantastic conversation. If you think about it, we've talked about everything from Brexit and MiFID II, thinking about what clients have been through and what's galvanized change, and then also thinking about the road ahead and what clients and the asset management, investment management industry should be thinking about for the remainder of 2020. So, Caroline, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And Dan, great to see you as always. And thanks again for being on the show, sharing your thoughts.
Absolutely, huge thanks. Thanks to you, and thanks to everyone who listened.
Brilliant. Well, you took the words straight out of my mouth, because my final words are going to be to thank the listeners for listening in today. I've been Julia Streets. Thank you for listening to Streets Talks to BTON Financial.
This episode of Streets Talks 2 was produced by me, Kieran Yates, on behalf of Streets Consulting Limited. Streets Consulting is a business development, marketing, communications consultancy that's focused on helping fintechs from the smallest startup companies to some of the world's largest global organisations. Everybody's trying to innovate and everybody's trying to grow. You can find this episode on streetsconsulting.com and using the hashtag StreetsTalks2. We can be found on LinkedIn and on Twitter at StreetsConsult. Thanks for listening.